Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Tired.
Yeah,
I just did that as a joke. No, I'm full of beans. How are you?
Yeah, good. So Swanee's tired because she just did a rip snorter of a story and we're doing two back to back. So that's fair enough. So as I've probably just intimated, we have literally gone from one to another, but are we drinking anything different this time?
Ooh, well, so last time I was telling you that we were going to have the dry rosé from Yering. It's actually quite nice. It is dry. It is rosé, and it's been delicious. So, yeah, thanks, Yering. That's what we're having.
Because I'm sure everyone's on the edge of their seat wondering, gosh, I wonder what Carla will be having. And water and
straight.
Yeah, just water, but that's about it.
You're not mixing that water with anything?
No, just water at the moment. I'm hosting a little get-together soon.
A little D&G. No, D&D. I don't know what D&G is. Dolce Gabbana party.
Little Gabbana party.
Of course
That's
she
probably
is.
more your speed, Carla.
Yes, that would. Well, it would be nice. That would be nice.
We're not in Monaco now.
Absolutely not. Not when you're hosting a Dungeons and Dragons afternoon for some kitty winks. But anyway.
And
What about
Schmidty,
you,
where did
Schmidty?
you land?
Halfway through the other episode, even though I knew I had to keep myself neat, I was saying earlier that I hurt my back yesterday. I was hitching the trailer and I lifted it up and it was a bad angle and I pulled something in my lower back. I tweaked my lower back and so it's very sore. So Stuart actually made a comment suggesting that Bailey's would be a good idea. So in my trouble,
Why does it have like an anti-inflammatory in it or something?
Bailey's and
for sure.
Panadol or Bailey's and Nurofen?
It's just Bailey's for now, but it has a nice calm.
Do you rub it on the spot?
Just chop a couple of
massive hot pack on my back
Nurofens
as
in.
well. I'll have them later. So who are we? I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarkey. And together we are
Trial
by
Wine.
Bailey's and water.
Not all mixed together, otherwise it would be trial by puke.
That would be a basic.
Oh, it wouldn't be good at all.
Or a hot burp.
Oh. Oh, goodness. On that
Isn't it
note,
terrible? Just the thought of it.
it's very descriptive. Yes.
Very
It's
much
simple. It's
makes
such
me wanna-
I know, isn't it strange? It's such a
And
simple
we've all had
hot
them.
burp.
Well, I did have indigestion the other night. That can lead to hot burp.
I was going to say, you might be calling that something different going forward. And it might be now, I think I've got a hot burp coming.
That was after the street party, wasn't it? Christmas
Oh,
party.
your street party was cute.
Yeah.
Did you have
hilarious.
like big concrete blocks to like
Yeah,
close off the
their
road?
roads closed.
They shut our road off.
Wow.
And
Because
of the floods.
Shut indefinitely. So we thought,
Oh.
let's have a Christmas party
that
there
makes
then.
more
I was
sense.
wondering why it was there. I thought
That's pretty
that's someone's gone to a lot of effort.
Yeah, no, so it's
But
literally...
also dangerous.
Yeah,
Someone's driving at 100 down the road and there's a concrete block in
I
front
saw
of them.
that.
So
Don't mind us, we're having a Christmas party.
I was mowing the lawns on the weekend and someone drives past and there's literally like 6 signs saying road closed ahead and one of them's big light board and all this sort of
Yeah.
shit. So he goes past and so I wave thinking, if he's going this far, he must be
Local.
someone.
You must know him, yeah.
So then he must go down, get to the concrete bollards, do a U-turn, come back and he flags me down on the ride-on and goes...
What's going on with the road?
Is the road closed
That's a
back
jewel.
there? And I'm still going to say, no. Mate, you've gone past 6 signs that say road closed and massive concrete bollards across the road and you're asking if it's closed.
You got to drive faster at them.
Were you making a reference to the film Jewel then?
I think I was.
You were.
I think
No.
I was.
I'm impressed by that.
Oh.
No, Carla
The
did.
Steven
She was
Spielberg
like
one?
Jewel. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the truck driver.
He looked like he was
who
gonna
harasses
take you
the
on.
car driver. Terrifying.
I guess you got that, Schmidty? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No
Isn't
idea.
it like a
perplexed.
movie, like the very first movie Steven Spielberg
It's
ever
one
did?
of
Us
the
about,
first-
yeah.
Oh,
And it's
yeah,
there's
quite
nobody.
scary,
It's just like a
Oh,
truck
Jewel as
chasing
in...
it.
Is it DUAL?
Jewel or
AL,
Jewel?
yeah.
Oh, not JEW. I was
No,
thinking
no.
Jewel.
Jewel.
What's that got to do
Jewel.
with trucks?
And it's like
Jewel cab.
Yes, you do a Jewel. It's like roar, get on the road on your ride-on mower.
Really scary. Yeah. On your right.
Because they're really
Mate,
quick.
get rid of those concrete blocks, mate. Come on, let's get some places to go. Okay, so it's my story this week. This time I thought we could go back to God's own country, Kerala.
Oh, we're back in India, or is that Sri Lanka?
Back in India. Yeah. No,
Is
back
it
in India.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember
Yeah.
The last one I did was
snake.
all about the snakes.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I think this is the problem that I have. I obviously go back to the same sources, and I'm always looking at these sort of American ones. And I want to find a story set in India, but I'm not looking at the right sources.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. When we get to the end of this one, you'll appreciate that it's actually quite hard to get information on a story from India.
I bet.
The good news is that this one doesn't feature any snakes.
Thank you.
That's all right. But when I edited that, I cannot believe not one of us took the opportunity to quote Samuel L. Jackson from Snakes on a Plane in that whole episode. My sources for today's story are the HindustanTimes.com, CNN.com, GulfNews.com, NYTimes.com, TheIndianExpress.com, and every podcaster's best friend, Wikipedia.
Yay!
Yay.
On this occasion, though, she was a bit light on for details, which makes sense when we get further into this story.
She being
That is
Wikipedia.
always the mystery. She
being Wiki.
You never know what
The
she's going to
lady
do. The lady
Wikipedia.
Wiki. You never know what she's going to give. Sometimes she gives too much. Sometimes she doesn't give
Sometimes
nearly
she
enough.
doesn't give enough.
And sometimes
I
she
know.
wants to direct me in other directions to the one person that I'm not interested in the crime. You know what I mean? That's what
I feel like you just described how Tony would describe me.
Yeah, she's complicated.
Sometimes she gives too
Much
much.
of it
Sometimes she doesn't give
enough.
enough.
Or she'd
Sometimes she's trying to redirect me.
Yeah. There you go.
That's right. Just so that you know, a massive storm has just broken out over the top of me. I'm going to keep going, but if you're hearing it, I can't do anything about Mother Nature.
Wow.
So this is a tragedy, not of Greek proportions, but Indian. This is either the story of a great deal of illness and terrible luck besetting a household, or something much more nefarious.
Is it
or nefarious?
a bad case of the runs?
No, it's not a bad case of the runs.
Just
Sounds like a song title. though.
COVID?
Bad case of the runs. What am I thinking?
I thought you were
of?
saying
Man on the run,
Band on the run.
No,
Fox
not
on
Man
the Run?
No, I don't know. It might come to me later. I believe the accused has not been sentenced yet in a court of law, so I will absolutely at the outset of the story say I'm telling this from the perspective of the police and the prosecution, and from what I can see, the local media, who are all very confident that they've got their lady. However, just in case it all turns out to be wrong, and bearing in mind that our whole show is for entertainment purposes only, I am doing the big caveat at the top of the show to say that what follows is allegedly what happened.
You are in dangerous territory, girlfriend.
Yes, I'm in dangerous territory. That's where I like to play. Okay, so back in 1972 or 1973, depending on what I was reading, a child was born.
Just one.
So was I.
Oh, well,
I know.
And this is the story of Carla Swan. The end.
And the reason I say maybe 72 or 73 is because the whole way through this, depending on what I'm reading, I get different facts. I'm just doing a hot burp.
Oh, yes.
See, it's the Baileys.
Is it hot or
conflicting with the
spicy?
pirate
The hot
juice.
throws me.
No,
It
hot.
was just
It
a little-
burns.
It was actually
Yeah,
just a burp
indigestion.
because
Because
I
it's
pulled.
actually-
The acidic one is your hot
Yeah,
burp. Is that
yeah.
right?
No.
That's your hot burp.
If I'd kept drinking the mango chutneys, I would have had an acidic burp. But no, because I'm on Bailey's, it pushes it all. It's like Gaviscon,
Yeah.
alcoholic Gaviscon.
I don't
got
really have that
arrived.
experience, but does anybody else? My version of the hot burp would be based on a tomato bolognese sauce that I used to have as a child.
Oh, yes.
That is one that is my hot burp.
Oh.
So this child that I, at some time in our past, said was born was so uninteresting that there is nothing about them documented until many years later. So in 1998, and again, I've got conflicting accounts, Jollyama, and at least
What?
they agree on her first name. Her name is Jollyama,
How's it spelled?
Jollyamma, like Jollyama.
Jollyyamma.
Jollyama.
Yeah, right.
Mixed martial arts at
And
the end.
sometimes no.
Jolly at mixed martial arts.
I did MMA fighter.
Oh, goodness me.
So, yeah, no, Jolly Armour is not Jolly with a mixed martial arts degree at the end. But anyway, they often they spell it differently, but pretty much that's her name. She was married, she moved, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, everything is spelled differently depending on the sources. Names are spelled different. Like this is not an easy one to get.
Is this
I know.
loose?
This is why I was earlier when you said I'd love to do a story from India. I'm like, it takes work and perseverance.
I think you should have.
In that case, I won't bother.
You should have said that this story is loosely based on a true story.
Yeah, it is. It's totally loosely based on a true story. Yeah. And I'm going to apologise now for butchering the pronunciation of some of these things because I didn't look them all up.
I think that's an excellent apology, by the way.
Yeah. She moved to Kuratayi
Oh, God.
in Kozhikode, Kerala, having married her husband Roy Thomas after a brief love affair. Jolly Armour held an M.Com, which from a cursory Googlage is a Master of Commerce or something along those lines, which sounds pretty good. Jolly, as she was known, thank goodness we got rid of the mixed martial arts, and Roy lived happily in his parents' house for 4 years, having 2 bouncing baby boys in the process. Jolly was described by the neighbours as a most excellent woman. She was loving and caring and would do whatever she could to help if anyone was ill, tutored some of the other kids. She was a very good Christian, attending church regularly.
And that's the story?
It's lovely to meet you, Jolly Ma.
Thank you, Schmidty. That's been a cracker. And we'll see you all next week.
She was articulate and chatty, very personable, and an all-round lovely person. And, of course, her name was Jolly. Having said that, her mother-in-law really thought she should go and get a job
Where was her mother-in-law?
in the same house as her. So
Rob Thomas.
Jolly married Rob Thomas.
Isn't Rob Thomas from a band?
Matchbox
From
Matchbox
20.
It totally was, yes.
It's not Rob Thomas, it's Roy Thomas.
Oh,
You haven't even been drinking, Swanee.
God.
Roy
Rob
Thomas.
Thomas.
Oh, don't worry. The whole way through, I'm like, why is Rob Thomas in this? And I'm like, it's not. It's Roy.
But is Roy Thomas Anglo?
No. And
What?
look, when I said earlier about names and stuff, the house has got a name. And for a long time, I thought the people who lived in the house, that was their surname. And then I realised it wasn't their surname. So all I could find that I could confirm was that the name was Thomas.
Right.
I don't know why. It's an Anglo name, but it just is.
Right.
Also, got to remember,
That's strange.
India was
colony.
controlled and colonised by the UK.
So Rob
and
Thomas's
by Britain.
brother, Roy,
Twin brother, I think.
Roy
is
Roy.
Indian.
Not
Is
identical
in
twin,
Kerala.
no.
That throws me.
in
That's all right.
Kozhikode. I looked that one up. Kozhikode. Living in there with
I don't even know what
his
you're
parents.
saying. God, I'm ignorant.
It's a place in
Yeah, I
Kerala.
know, but anyway.
Her mother-in-law told her to go get a job. She encouraged Jolly to do a Bachelor of Education, and when it seemed that this was finished, after all, Jolly was off at uni during the week, leaving the kids with Nana, Roy's mum thought it was fair that she should get a job. Around that time, she told her mother-in-law and family that she'd been offered a guest lecturer role at the prestigious National Institute of Technology in Calicut
Was that true?
University.
Or is that a lie?
Well, we'll get to there, which I think we would all agree was a pretty awesome job by
Yeah,
England standards.
absolutely.
Like, if you were actually offered that.
It's not the
After
manager of the
guesting-
Sun City Gym.
No. But then sometime after
Disappointingly.
that, because she'd been a guest lecturer for a period of time,
Yeah.
she was offered a contract. So she was basically given tenure, and she was a professor there. And she had to travel about half an hour to the university from home during the week. So again, leaving the kids with probably her mother-in-law.
So
and
she
her
thought she'd
husband.
move to Australia and become an Uber driver.
No, not yet.
Not
No,
yet.
That's not where
Don't-
this turns out.
I know that you're shocked by that, but don't you find that everybody who drive an Uber, they're the most educated people? Oh, they're certainly here. It's unbelievable. No?
No, but I do find that there are students who come to where I work,
Yeah.
and they have like doctorates.
Yes,
and
they're so educated.
super
Yeah.
educated, but they can't get them recognised in Australia, and so they have to go and do something else.
I always
or-
find it really embarrassing. I'll be sitting there talking to someone and they're like, what do you do? And then they'll tell me and I'm like, oh my God, you're so educated.
So no, that is not.
That's not the direction
the
it's
story
headed.
takes.
So she's
No.
okay. So she's staying there. Yep.
Yeah. So all was jolly in the world until one day.
Did you write that yourself, or did
August- I
Wikipedia
did.
write that?
One day in August of 2002, that Indian tragedy struck when Jolly's mother-in-law, Anima, Anna, I don't know how to say it. Amma? It's Annama.
Mixed martial arts at the end.
Anima? I don't know. I'm sorry. At 57 years of age, died after enjoying a hearty mutton soup. Now, she had been
What a
ill.
way to go.
I hope it was dressed up as lamb soup.
It wasn't. It was just mutton. But she had been ill. She'd been on some medication and she'd reacted badly a month or so earlier. So no one kind of was that surprised, even though she was only 57.
Oh.
The neighbours recalled that the joy seemed to go out of their lives for a time after Anima died.
Oh.
Things were just not the same.
She must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it sounds like she was the matriarch,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
she had it all going on.
Yeah.
Life went on in the Ponomatum house.
Why isn't it the Thomas house?
Well, this is the thing, right? I think the house is actually called Ponomatum.
Oh, right.
And this was my confusion because it was like their name was Ponomatum,
Yeah.
Thomas Ponomatum.
Yeah.
And then I heard a reference where it was actually, no, the house itself was called that. And I'm like, I am so confused. I cannot work out. And I found it hard to believe their name was Thomas also.
Yeah. We didn't get tickets when Max Box 20 came to India.
Here we go, right? So Jolly
Freebies,
looked
front
after
row.
her husband.
Plus the backstage party.
You'd think.
Thomas.
You'd think. That's the real crime here, I can tell.
So Jolly looked after her husband, Roy, twin brother to Rob, her sons,
Non-identical.
her father-in-law, Tom Thomas,
Come on.
your Uncle Matthew, who had
Tell me,
a different name, but I couldn't pronounce
was
it. so I
Tom
didn't put it in.
Thomas a good navigator?
Tom Tom.
That's the last laugh you get there. Anyway, she continued her professorial work and, of course, continued to impress the neighbours with her convivial manners and charm. Then, again,
Tragedy struck.
that Indian tragedy. That's right. In
What is that Indian
2008.
tragedy? Why is it different to other
great
tragedies?
tragedy.
No,
Oh,
it's all this dumb joke I've got in my head
God.
about it being a Greek tragedy, but it's not a Greek
Sorry,
tragedy.
I'm
it's
just
an
not
Indian
on the same page. I think I'm there now. Thank you.
I don't think anyone is. It's okay. So, again, with that Indian tragedy, in 2008, Tom Thomas. In 2008, Thomas, her father-in-law, collapsed and died.
Mutton soup.
Oh, come on. No way, mate. No way.
No, but it's 6 years later.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
way. How old was he?
Anyway.
57? Nah.
66. Jolly called the neighbour Muhammad Baba, who recalled the incident as such.
Was he related to Tony?
Not Baba, Bava with a V. Only people of our age even know who Tony Baba is. This is what Muhammad Bava, who's the neighbour, said. In August 2008, Bava remembered hearing the sound of someone being violently ill next door. He said Jolly called him and calmly told him that Roy Thomas's 66-year-old father, Tom Thomas, wasn't well. When Bava got there, he said he found Tom Thomas lying flat on his back, foaming at the mouth.
Oh.
Bava took him to hospital where doctors declared him dead from a heart attack.
Was Jolly given the wrong name?
She's very convivial. She's very nice. Everyone likes her. She's a lovely person.
Jolly murderer.
Well, I don't know.
We'll find out.
Jury's out.
By now, poor Jolly and Roy are starting to think they're cursed. Anima was only 57 years old, Tom was 66, and both taken so tragically before their time and 4 years and 4 days apart, which I thought was just a weird coincidence. On the plus side, though, Jolly was the sole beneficiary.
There was a
to the
whole
will
lot more room in the house. Jolly was the
No.
sole beneficiary of her step-parents,
of Tom's will. Yeah.
not Rob or Roy.
Well, it's multiple accounts again. So in one account, it was left to both Roy and Jolly. In other accounts, Jolly was left all of the money and the house.
That sounds weird.
Now, the house itself, which she now owns at this point, is a lovely pink pastel house. And Tom, on the front gate, there's actually a little plaque on it that says Tom Thomas's house. The house, Ponomatum, is a spacious affair with lovely balconies with white balustrades. And I don't know what style you'd call it, but it did remind me of some McMansion with Euro-style bits. It's a big house.
Is it colonial style?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I mean, the balustrades and the kind of, it's got a couple of columns in there as well. I don't know what you call it, but yeah, probably it is colonial style. Life went on. I suppose 2 parental deaths in 4 years might feel close, but not that weird. As I said, Anima had pre-existing illnesses and there wasn't an autopsy done because no one was shocked that she passed away. And there was no autopsy done on Tom either. So Jolly kept to her work at the university, and Roy did whatever Roy did, because I couldn't find anything on what Roy actually did other than a suggestion that he had an alcohol problem and he didn't have a steady income. So he was an unemployed drunk.
At uni, did she teach legal studies, or as I like to call it, how to get away with murder?
No, she didn't. So life moved on, right? Because even though Roy was a bit of a drunk and a bit of a no-account river fella, did
you just introduce that then?
It's a quote from Showboat. Sorry,
I was going to say, is that just like such a Schmidty thing to say? There'll be some obscure reference.
What if he's some no-account river fella? Then I'd stop loving him. Oh, no, you wouldn't. Once a woman like you starts to love a man, she don't stop so easy. Anyway, until 2011, when poor Roy killed himself. I know, that escalated quickly. So we've gone from 2002 with the mother-in-law passing, 2008 with the father-in-law passing, and now poor Roy has killed himself.
Is that because he couldn't stand the jolly nature of Jolly?
I think it was put down to financial difficulties.
Or as I like to call her, Angelina.
Now, again, when this happened, Jolly called on her neighbour Bava, again, who found Roy lying on the bathroom floor, foaming at the mouth.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Now, this time, Roy's uncle Matthew insisted that a post-mortem take place.
Uncle Matthew.
Yeah,
no,
the
right.
post-mortem showed that he'd eaten a curry and rice. I think it was a chickpea rice. Sorry, a chickpea curry
We've all
and
had
rice.
one of those curries.
But there were traces of poison in his system.
Oh, surprise,
For some
surprise.
reason, that's right, which again there is absolutely no useful information on, it was decided he'd killed himself due to financial difficulties and no further investigation.
Are you kidding?
Oh, God. Who
Jolly would
made
later
the
tell
curry?
people...
My work here is done.
Not Jolly, she was making an omelette. I'll get to that. Jolly would later tell people that he'd died of a heart attack, most likely to avoid the embarrassment of the stigma of a husband.
Of
having
being
taken his
called a
own life.
murderer.
Unsurprisingly, after that, Jolly withdrew from the community. She wasn't that friendly or close to local people, but we didn't really mind, as we knew that she was a woman and a widow too. Yeah, thank you. Carla
What does
just
that
did a
mean?
swift double take. Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. Bijou Mon, who used to drive Joseph and Roy Thomas's eldest son to school. Sorry, Joseph is Jolly's last name.
Jolly
I put that quote
Joseph?
These people are
Not Thomas.
Is this-
Don't ask me.
Are you sure this is a true story?
It is, yeah. So I put that quote in because I actually take umbrage at the statement that she was a woman, so it was acceptable that she didn't talk to anyone. But I do appreciate there are significant cultural differences between downtown Melbourne and Coricod. So poor old Uncle Matthew, who insisted on the post-mortem, died in 2014.
What?
3 years
Foaming
later.
at the
Again,
mouth?
from a heart attack.
Oh, come on.
Someone should be checking the cholesterol. And
Oh,
I was
my
gonna say,
God, yeah.
I'm going to say.
That
yeah,
Indian
yeah.
tragedy.
Too much. What's the
Then-
name of the fat they use?
Ghee?
Ghee. These people
Too
with
much
their
dirty
names are
fat.
just having too many, big English breakfast and sausages and.
I don't think they are.
4 hash
Don't
browns.
doubt.
Cooked in
can't cope with
ghee
the
and
names.
duck
They're
fat
really
or
bothering me.
goose fat.
It gets harder for me, so just bear with. Then Alphane.
That's what Tony says.
How hard can it be? I can guess what's going to happen at this point. Then everybody you've introduced so far, then in another couple of years, they're dying of a heart attack.
Died, yeah.
Oh, but no one investigated.
And a little bit of foam.
In another couple of years later, they died of a heart attack. I can guess.
You are
Close.
so good at
Close.
picking patterns, Swanee.
Oh, I know.
Okay, this one's going to upset you, though,
Oh.
so no jokes. Alphane, or Alphine, I've seen it written multiple ways, the 2-year-old daughter of Shaju Sakaharias, Roy's cousin, died after allegedly choking on food at a christening ceremony. So 2-year-old baby. It's all just too tragic.
It's
Over
all
the
just
past
too
12 years-
coincidental.
Jeepers.
I wonder her name wasn't Mary.
At this point, the family had lost 5 people and a toddler.
Oh, God.
Oh, and this terrible fate that had descended on the family was not done. 2 years later, in 2016, Alphane's mother, Silly, died at the age
Come
of
on.
43.
Silly.
At what age, sorry, Schmidty?
S-I-L-I.
This story is silly.
Silly? I don't know.
How old was she?
43.
Oh, okay.
43.
It is, yeah.
But
Sounds jolly
not
silly to
everything.
me.
Lots of families lose who get.
Was it the
Not every
the mother
no,
of the?
no,
No,
no.
they're
why
not
is that?
related.
So the toddler
Yeah.
and her mother, the toddler passed away, then the mother passed away. Now, the mother was married to Roy's cousin.
Right.
So Roy's cousin's wife and daughter have died at this
Let me
point.
just get the whiteboard and I'll plot it out.
I've got a picture for you in a moment.
Thank you.
It makes it easier.
We'll put that on socials for
and
everyone.
you do need it. Yeah, you do need it. Yeah. However, not everything was doom and gloom. In 2017, a year after Silly's death, Jolly married her widower, her dead husband's cousin, Saju Sakirias. And I think I've seen it spelled as Zacharias, and that's why I made the whole Greek tragedy joke, because it sounds like a Greek name. It doesn't sound like an Indian name.
Oh.
So 14 years had passed, and as we know from other killers, they don't generally take their time like this. So apart from the, let's call it extensive death count, what sparked any suspicion that foul play was afoot?
It's a movable feast.
It is in point of fact. Anyway, as it turns out, the fact that Tom Thomas had allegedly left everything to Jolly and Roy in his new will was a bit surprising. I mean, she was a woman, so there's that. The neighbour...
Where's your
sorry.
drunk old?
No,
Lady
it's not the
voice.
drunk. It's the feminist in me going, well, she was a woman, so, we wouldn't leave her anything.
All right, I see.
Anyway, sorry.
No, don't be. You go, girlfriend.
When I wrote this, I wasn't
You
drunk,
use your
so,
platform.
Yeah. Well, the whole, it's fine that she withdraws from the community because, she's a woman and a widower. Anyway, it's different community. I get it. The neighbour Bava, our mate, said that he'd seen the new version of the will and Tom's brother, okay, now, in the court documents.
Finally, Rob
it's
Thomas.
Described as, no, Reggio or Rojo. Or
Reggie.
some other pronunciation of both of them.
Reg.
Let's call him Reggie.
Let's call him Reg.
because in the court documents, it's Reggio, so I'm going with that because surely they'd get it right. But every other news outlet has called him Rojo.
Schmidty,
Anyway,
I'm not sure if it's you or your sources that don't sound credible, but something just isn't adding up here.
Okay, so this dude, Reggie. And
Or Rojo.
Reggio might be right because there's also a sister, Renji, who I can't even bother talking about. All right, Carla's lost
Stop it, you're
Carla's
hurting
lost
me.
over the name. I knew that the names would have been the hardest things. All right, so Reggie, who was living in the USA, decided to do some investigation of his own. Now, I'm not sure how he went about it, given that he was living in the US, but he was
Google.
able to discover, yeah, maybe, but he was able to discover that our mate Jolly was, you guessed it, not a professor at the prestigious National Institute of Technology in Calicut, or Calicut. I don't know if it's in Calicut. National Institute of Technology, Calicut University. So for 14 years, she'd been going off to work at the NIT, returning dutifully, although I did read in one article at the Times of India that she was running a beauty parlour somewhere, but then someone else said she just went to the beauty parlour.
Beauty school dropout.
I don't think we know what she was doing in her time for the 14 years.
Do we really not know?
No. This is the thing. There's so much stuff on her that's all the same.
There is no fact to this story and a whole lot of ridiculous names.
I'm really pleased that you are getting to where I got with this, okay? So apparently she's doing all those things, but we don't know whether she did. Then there was all this thing about her qualifications because it turns out she didn't have one. So the old BCom I talked about.
The MCom.
MCom that I talked about earlier. Well, there were also reports of what kind of qual she allegedly had. So the aforementioned MCom, BTech, BCom, UCG Net were all mentioned.
Spotted
but she didn't
qual.
have any. She didn't have any. She was a college dropout.
Beauty school
No
dropout. Your graduation day.
Graduation day is something
near.
Anyway, okay. So, but no one believed Rejo when he said, "Red flags. This woman is not who she says she is." Because it sounded a bit far fetched, but also he's an uncle-in-law of hers, and because he's Thomas's brother, and none of the money was left to him. So you could think that he's just out of sorts.
Sour
because he's
grapes?
missed out. Correct. Or is he? So, not put out by everyone thinking he had it all wrong, Reggie asked for a copy of the post-mortem that had been carried out on Roy and found that whilst Jolly had said that she'd been cooking an omelette for Roy on the night of his death, remember you were talking about the curry and whatever, he'd actually eaten a dinner of rice and chickpea curry. Bum, bum, bum! I mean, that's it, isn't it?
That's the hook,
Smoking gun. Yeah. When confronted, she was insistent that she was making an omelette.
Well, he must have got takeaway. Maybe he doesn't like my cooking.
This is the thing. Like, when did he eat this food? She might have been making an omelette. Doesn't mean he ate it. Anyway.
We've all had dinner before we've gone to someone's house for dinner because we know they're a shit cook.
Yeah. And that... Hang on.
Hang on a minute.
Hold the phone.
Not you.
That nosy neighbour, Bava, remember him?
Yeah.
He also became more and more suspicious because he's got nothing else to
As in
do.
he became more suspicious of Jolly or he became more suspicious himself?
Jolly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, good point made, though. At this point, Nosy Bava joined forces
Nosy
with Reggie.
Bava.
And they became a pair of amateur sleuths.
Not to be confused with
Mull-
Noisy Barber
Or Tony Barber.
or Tony
That's right.
Barber,
That's right. Or Noisy
who
Barber.
was also
That's
a
right.
noisy
Or
barber. Yeah.
That's right. So they were mulling over all the info they had on the family deaths, and the only thing that linked all of them was that Jolly was present each time.
And survived.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, but I'm not totally sure why that's compelling, although when you
Are
think
you
about
not?
it, she lived... No, because she lived with her in-laws
Who all died.
and her husband
Who
and her
died.
Uncle Matthew.
Who died.
Yeah, but she lived with them. She's around them all the time. And they died over a span of like
Yeah.
14 years.
You don't think
They
that's
didn't have-
compelling?
No, I don't.
What about the bubby?
I will give you that Alphine or whatever her name was and Silly were odd, as in they didn't live with
Well,
them.
that's why she killed them.
But they were at family events, and the deaths happen at home or at family events. So my point is, right, she's part of a family community. They go to all the same events. They're all at the same stuff. That's how they hang out together. So, like if someone dies and you're there, like other people were there too. Bava was there.
At every single one of them?
Well, not the other two, but Bava was at all the other deaths, yes.
Are you sure? He was living
says
next
he
door.
showed up later.
Yeah, he showed up
says
after.
he showed up later.
Yeah, but she was
He
there
says.
cooking omelettes and people were
Anyway.
dying with chickpea curries in their bellies.
Whilst, yes, there have been 6 people in the family who have died over 14 years, it's a long time, right? And I don't know. I'm not convinced. Anyway.
What a load of old shit.
Okay, I can see where you're falling on the side, or what side of the fence you're
she
falling on already.
Did it. There's
All
at
right,
least
well,
enough
you-
room for suspicion.
You and a whole bunch of other people are on that side. Okay, so in 2019, regardless of the fact that they really had no proof whatsoever, and at best some circumstantial evidence, Rojo and Bava complained to the police, who told them to go away as it was a suicide. This is about Roy. However, they didn't take no for an answer, and they went on to the crime unit of the Corricod police, who were having a slow day, so they agreed they should look into it.
Did you
I
ad-lib when
added
you said they were having a slow day? Yeah.
Yes. And they did look into it. The police confirmed that although Jolly had an ID card from the university, she had lied about her role as a professor to up her status. The best she did at the uni was buy tea at the canteen.
Is that what the police said?
Apparently that's what she did. She'd pop in sometimes and have a cup of tea.
Have a cup of tea. Cup of tea, Steve. Cup of tea.
Allegedly, they found over 50 discrepancies between her statements and other evidence. But as we're basically finding this woman guilty through the media, no one has said what they actually were. And to be honest, the more I read about it, the less I believe there's actually any non-circumstantial or hard evidence against her. All 6 people have been exhumed for forensic testing. And at this point in the story, the only one we know had a poison in his system was Roy. After lots of questioning from the police, and I've no idea...
Can I just ask on that, when you say the only one, is that because the others had no evidence or because they were too decomposed?
We're going to find... No. There are 2 that we actually know by the very end of the story had some form of poisoning in their system. And the other 4, we don't know. And I'll get to that.
Right.
So after a lot of questioning, Jolly caved, confessing to all 6 murders with a sad motive of wanting to get the family assets and a nicer husband. After all, Roy didn't appear to work. His parents were well off. Jolly wasn't a professor earning money, and she was most likely reliant on her in-laws for everything. She seemed to actually quite like Shuva, if you remember the cousin, commenting to others that she'd like a nice husband like him. What she actually meant was she would like a nice husband who was him.
A subtle difference, but important.
Yeah,
Exactly. What's a little obstacle like a wife and child when you are proficient in killing people with cyanide, after all?
More so,
I knew it.
What's a reputation as a murderer going to do for his love for her? Like, she's
didn't
so
know.
freaking disillusioned.
She might have the MP, though.
Well, she might have, but at this point, she'd killed 6 people, or had she?
No, she's not getting anyone to do anything for her, so it's not MP. She's
doing it all herself.
Well, I read somewhere that one of the family members said we weren't really happy about the marriage, but then, they got along really well and they were both in the same situation in that they were widowed, so we kind of accepted it. According to the prosecution, she had to knock off Uncle Matthew because he was causing trouble insisting on a post-mortem for Roy. Remember, she killed Uncle Matthew allegedly 3 years after the whole post-mortem with Roy, though. It's not like she knocked him off when he started the conversation about needing a post-mortem. She was just lucky that effective detectives called it suicide at the time. Jolly had kept up appearances not only with her job lies but also with her piety. According to the Reverend at the local Lord's Martha Church she was said to regularly frequent, Reverend Joseph, oh God, Kitsapera.
Reverend Joseph, oh God. If only there was a Reverend Joseph, oh God. That's like a Monty Python skit.
All right, his last name is
God.
Kitsak Perakal.
Nailed it.
No, I can't say it faster.
Yeah, no, you got it. You've got it.
He said she's not even a member of this diocese. She came here after getting married. Jolly was not a frequent visitor here, nor did she have anything to do with the activities of the church.
Why is that relevant?
Because apparently she was pious and she went to church all the time. She was a really good Christian.
Sounds like you, Schmidty.
Yeah, no, my priest would say, Schmidty who? Fair enough.
Aww.
I'm a total submarine. Maybe I surface at Christmas and Easter, and that's about it. The point is that some people are saying she lied about being a professor. She lied about being pious. She didn't go to church. She didn't do these things. Other people saying, no, she did go to church. I saw her. So my point is that the things that are used
no
as
one that goes to
circumstantial-
church would
No.
do this?
It's not about her being a Christian. It's about this establishing of her as a liar. If you lie about one or two things, you lie about everything and therefore we'll convict you for 6 murders. That's the point, right?
Right.
It's nothing
irrelevant, Your Honour.
It's not irrelevant. Anyway, after 14 weeks of investigation, finally on January the 1st, 2020, a 1,800-page long charge sheet was filed at the Thamarassery Magistrate Court in Kerala, India.
1,008 pages.
1,800.
She didn't go to church. No, she did go to church. No, God, can you just skip over that?
It's worse
Can you read
yet.
the back?
Worse
Can you
yet.
read the back of the cover?
Worse yet, this was pertaining to the alleged murder of her first husband, Roy Thomas. So it's only about
Is
one
that
charge.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
And she was named as the prime accused. She was formally charged with murder, destruction of evidence, and Section 6, Paragraph 2 of the Indian Poison Act for crimes committed using poison, not committed against poison.
Is she
committed using poison?
is she the Indian formally charged with?
No, she's still charged with. So
That's a Prince joke. You just said she was formally charged.
Formally, not beforehand, as in officially charged. Goodness me.
That was my Prince joke. I thought it was funny.
It was great. After
Surely no
4
one else
other
did.
charge sheets, of which the number of pages have not been disclosed, the final charge sheet was submitted on February the 10th, 2020.
That's because no one got to the end of it. They just went, 5 pages will do.
Yeah.
I'll read the prologue.
I've read some of
There's been
the
some bridging notes.
That's right. There's someone highlighted
cliff
it.
notes.
I'll just read those
I've
bits.
read a couple of transcripts of the bail hearings. They're just fabulous. Anyway, by now police had concluded that while Jolly used cyanide in eliminating 5 of the 6, in the case of her mother-in-law, Anima, not Enema,
Yep.
and Anna.
I love how
call
you
it
know
Anna.
what it's not, but you don't know what it is.
Well, I know it doesn't start with an E. Enema starts with an E. This starts with an A. She used the poison normally given to kill rabid dogs and sourced it from a veterinary clinic on the grounds that she wanted to eliminate her dog.
Imagine doing that in like
Australia.
suburban Australia. Go up to the vet.
Can I just have something to
I'm just
eliminate
after
my dog?
I'm after could I just pick up a bottle of the, what do you call it? Think of a name.
The dog eliminator.
The blue mute. I'm just reading that. Your blue mute. Sure. That's that's one for killing rabbit. Yeah. Just give me.
Yeah, I got it.
I've got a dog. I've got to eliminate.
I want to go and eliminate that dog.
My
Could you get
stepmom's
me
the
in
real
No
beast.
way,
as
love.
well?
I thought you'd
Oh,
like
that
that.
makes sense.
I thought you'd like
How
that.
much do you need? What volume? Liter?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a few. Yeah. After being arrested, Jolly was housed at the Coricod District Jail. On February 27th, 2020, Jolly attempted suicide in jail. She bit her wrist.
Suicide? I mean,
She beat
her
her
wrist
wrist.
open and then rubbed them against the tiles and injured herself further, according to a statement that was given to police in the hospital. The courts that heard the bail pleas of Jolly and her accomplices, so other people have been charged as well, the men who sold the cyanide, someone who received it on her behalf, both saying that they believed it was to kill rats and knowing nothing about any murders. And I think a person who notarized the allegedly forged will has also had charges put against them.
do you think that she bought the cyanide and she bought it in a volume that she was ready to sort of rock whenever she needed to? Did she have it like in the cupboard at home? No one ever checked.
In the tea.
Or did she have to go, oh, God, I'm going to have to go down to the cyanide shop again and put it on my shopping list. I've got to do this again.
It's not a cyanide shop. It's actually
She
a
had it in
jewelry.
the tea canister.
What is it?
Cyanide is used in the production of jewelry, and so it actually was sold by a jeweler to another
Here we
person.
go.
Ah, is that right?
Yeah, and
Here we
then
go.
there's a middleman somewhere, and then he gave
How
it
do
to
you know
Jolly,
that?
allegedly. Well, they've been charged with this.
Of course she knows that.
Yeah,
Charged
right.
with it, you know.
It's fucking cyanide. As if she
Yeah,
wouldn't know.
yeah.
Well,
Where else do you
cyanide's
go?
not something you can get from Bunnings.
It's not the cyanide shop card.
That's-
Oh, isn't it?
right, okay.
Yeah.
What about Mitre 10?
No, they stock it either. No.
Guess again, girlfriend.
I don't have a third guess. If it's not Bunnings or
Home
Mitre 10, I
Hardware,
don't know.
we'll just go to the
I don't
third.
know another one.
Home
Yeah.
Hardware is another one.
You're clearly
McEwen's.
going to the wrong jeweler shop.
McEwen's has got bought out by Bunnings
Yeah,
years ago.
Schmidty used to
Oh,
work.
did they?
I used to
Bunnings
work there.
Warehouse.
That's right.
That's right.
Bunnings is from Western Australia, isn't it?
West Farmers. Yes.
Oh,
West
yes.
Farmers. After the bail hearings, they've refused to grant her bail as the police had informed the courts that she's a person with suicidal tendencies.
Well, it sounds like it.
The bail hearing for her charges for the alleged murder of her mother-in-law granted her bail, but because the other ones didn't, she's still in jail. Since then, her second husband, Shuju, having been cleared by police of any knowledge of her scurrilous ways, petitioned for divorce in late 2021. Normally,
Man.
when you ask for divorce, you'd say things like, we have irreconcilable differences, or you might even cite adultery. But in this case, he cited the fact that Jolly had killed his first wife and child, his cousin and his uncle and aunt, and tried to set him up as reasons for divorce. He also said he fears for his life if she was ever released and he had to live with her. So I think that's probably likely to be granted. So since 2021, I'm pretty sure she's been in jail. In fact, I think she's been in jail since 2019 when she was first arrested, waiting to start the first of 6 murder trials against her. Now, I did read an article from mathraboomi.com which said the police are waiting.
I like that word.
Did you though?
mathraboomi.com.
Masturbation.
Now, this-
Massive booby.
It took me ages to find this article. It's almost
Is it like
hidden
Murderpedia
in-
or is it
No, it's a
No.
news website, but it's effectively
Cinemaholic?
hidden
Masturbation?
in as much as very few people have covered this. But the police are waiting on forensic evidence for 4 of the victims to confirm that they were indeed poisoned. Now, this is interesting because everything I read prior to this pretty much suggested that it was a done deal. They were all poisoned with cyanide. No question about it. But this article about still needing forensic evidence was dated the 12th of April, 2022.
Oh.
Recent.
Very recent. They still haven't proved that 4 of the victims or 4 of the people who've passed away actually were killed with cyanide, even though the entire prosecution's case is that she's murdered all of them with cyanide, even though we know that Anna, Mama, was killed by the poison for eradicating dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come and see the real thing. Come.
Are you done yet?
Good song.
Okay.
Good song.
Good one. Police say she confessed to the murders, but apparently in Indian law, if you confess to the police, it's not actually
A confession.
no, it's not
Or admissible.
admissible in court. If you confess to, I don't know, probably because you
Because what? Nah, sorry, what was that?
Oh my God. This is going to, oh my God, you poor darling. This is going to be such a hard one to edit.
I don't know. It's just written into the law. It's an actual thing that the law says no. If you confess, and for all we know, it's to protect people who've had confessions pushed out of them or forced out of them. Or
Who do you have to confess to?
If you confess to someone else without any extenuating circumstances that suggest that you were pushed to do so, or could suggest that you were pushed to do so, then that can be admissible. So, for instance, at any time in the 14 years prior, if she had said to her new husband or her sons or someone, oh, by the way, I knocked Granny off with the dog eliminating poison, that would be admissible. With a
candlestick in the library.
Yeah.
But what if the police then have someone come to them and say, she confessed to me?
They're a witness.
Is that admissible?
Yes. It's admissible from the perspective of being a witness.
So they can coerce someone to say that someone else did it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
It must make the job as a policeman pretty easy. It's like, I'm not after a confession because it's no use to me, so hi. Come on in, grab a seat.
You just pay the meth head from down the road to say that they confessed and happy days. You got a conviction. That sounds ridiculous.
Mm.
I'm sure it's not as straightforward as that, but I think the point you're trying to make is it on its own is not enough. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
No, the point that Schmidty's trying to make, or the point that I'm trying to make?
The point that Caroline's making, I think.
Because hers is a reputable one, mine's just ridiculous.
I've done at least 4 hours to try to work out what's been going on here. At least 4 hours.
Do you know, you're making me laugh before you said this story's been hardly reported, I thought, because no one can do anything with the names. They can't make sense of it. So people are just gone, I did look into it. I am aware of it. But in terms of trying to retell it, I'm not gonna go there. To retell, it would be so hard. I don't know. This one's
going to make front page. Oh, actually. No.
I'm a little bit worried about the names.
Leave it, yeah.
Roy Thomas. I mean, come on.
But in Kerala, this was like hot news.
Hot news in downtown Kerala,
it was.
Sure.
And, everyone there was like scandal of the century. They are very convinced that they have got a, massive serial killer on their hands. Sorry, I'm just sharing. I'm just going to give you the little timeline if you can see it. Can you see anything?
Oh, I was trying to work out why the house has got a name, but, that's just me.
I'm with you.
Now, don't ask me about the photos that
Did you do that?
No, I didn't. This is done by someone
Seriously? It looks like who done it.
So,
oh my God!
Was it?
Is there a candlestick in the den?
Does the person you are accusing have no hair?
What I'm trying to
do they have a moustache? What's that thing where you flick them down? Guess who? That's what it looks like.
Okay, so wife Jolly, got it right.
Just describe it for listeners, please. So I put up an image of like a family tree of all the people who've deceased and their relationship to Jolly, yes?
You've literally plotted it out on a whiteboard.
Well, someone else has plotted it out on a whiteboard
Where's the husband?
Roy, who looks like...
He's dead.
He looks like that photo was
taken...
Saddam
Hussein.
He looks like the photo was taken of him after he died and they pried his eyes.
And they drew a moustache on him.
It looks more like Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, it's not the best photo.
Is this him here?
And Anna Ma.
This one.
Over here. That's not a...
Anna MMA.
Anna Ma.
I told you it's Anna
Anna MMA. Anna Mixed Martial Arts.
Is that her up there?
Anna Mixed Martial Arts,
She's lost some of the definition on her facial features.
I feel like this photo's been reproduced a lot, and so it's lost definition.
Why has Tom Tom got a P in front? Why is it a P Tom Tom? It sounds like a rapper.
Don't ask me.
P Tom Thomas.
I don't know. And there's
P Thomas looks like he could be black.
And there's Uncle Matthew
Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
And there's Matthew Manjadil.
Where's Matthew?
Over here.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say his last name because
I'm
it was
not
funny.
getting
really
that
hard.
name, Matthew. There's something about these people's names that just
See, that's actually their names. Someone else made this chart. I wasn't making their names up. And they're silly, I told you, although I've seen it spelt with an I. And Alphine, who I've also seen spelt Alphane.
But why did she have to kill the mother-in-law and father-in-law?
Oh, mother-in-law was, this is what the prosecution...
What's the reason?
Right?
Why?
So
why she would have,
This is the story according to the prosecution and the police.
Yeah.
Mother-in-law hassling her, get a job. She can't really get a job. She goes and pretends that she's a guest lecturer and a professor. Mother-in-law may have been a retired teacher herself and could have found out, and so she thought, I've got to knock her off. So she goes.
Right.
Thomas probably wasn't really much of a threat, but he's got the title to the house and the family fortune. He's got to go so that Roy and her can have that. Then Matthew over on the other side, who is the brother of Anna. Sorry, I thought it was Tom's brother, but no, it's I think it's Anna MMA. He wanted the postmortem, and so he becomes a trouble. So 3 years later, allegedly, she knocks him off. And then Roy is just irritating, so she knocks him off. Oh, no, sorry.
No,
Roy
went
goes
before.
first. Sorry,
Roy went first, yeah.
Then Uncle wants the postmortem.
Maddie goes, yeah.
But then 3 years later, she knocks him off, allegedly. And then she apparently kills poor little baby Alphane at a christening, which is just seems odd, by putting allegedly cyanide on a piece of bread. And then...
Bold move at a christening.
Also maybe meant for someone else.
2 years later, Silly, the mother of Alphine and the wife of Sir Shaju, dies.
I reckon she's given the cyanide bread to Silly, and she's put it on Silly's plate and Silly's given it to the kid.
It's
brother's son. Is that P. Thomas?
Yeah, he's a cousin.
Son.
So he's some other brother's son.
Oh, right. Yeah,
or
okay,
he's Matthew's son. I don't know. I'm confused.
Matthew and son.
Who did she have the hots for? She had the hots
for Shaju.
She had the hot for Shaju. Shaju is a looker, granted.
Good husband, and she wanted a nice husband like him. No, she actually wanted him. This is the story. And see, you're laughing because it is ridiculous. And that's why I'm led to believe that this is just a dumb story and this woman is being tried by suspicion and
You don't
media.
think she's guilty?
I think she might be guilty of some, but not all.
Which ones?
I think she probably killed her husband.
Right.
All the ones with the red dots.
I think she probably
On
killed
the
her
picture.
husband. I think maybe her mother-in-law and even father-in-law died of natural causes. Shaju's the only one other than her still alive.
Are you kidding?
No.
He was frothing at the mouth.
According to one witness only.
Yeah.
And we don't have...
That's enough. That's enough.
Don't have... Yeah, but a heart attack can cause frothing at the mouth too. The police obviously think that she's done it. The media thinks she's done it. Her family seems to think she's done it, and they've pretty much cut her off. The one thing for sure is she did forge her ID for the uni, lie about her qualifications and job to improve her status amongst her community. I don't know that means she killed 6 members of her family, and I'm honestly not sure, and I doubt there's enough evidence in any of the cases to find her guilty. So is it an Indian tragedy of epic proportions where a woman is found guilty and, by the way, could get the death penalty for it, for a series of deaths that were not her fault at all, or is she a calculating, cold-blooded killer? What do you think? Oh,
I'm inclined to think the latter.
All right, we're straight on. No matter how hard I try to point out that there is very little actual evidence other than circumstantial.
I take your point, and I'm not saying I wouldn't be able to say that in a jury. You're quite right. There's not enough evidence, and I couldn't say that. But I think that she's played a hand in it. Put it that way. I don't think that it's just what a coinky dink. I think that she might have been participating in a little bit of poisoning.
I'd suggest that...
A little bit of poisoning.
Yes.
Participating in a little bit of poisoning.
Yeah.
What are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm just participating in a little bit of poisoning. Oh, that sounds nice.
I go to a christening.
Bit of alcoholic poisoning. That's what I normally do on the weekend.
Yeah.
I think possibly one of the reasons that there's not a lot of evidence in the story is that it hasn't gone to court yet. And so I'd like to think that perhaps it hasn't played out in the media to its full extent because it's got to go to court.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it hasn't gone to court is because there isn't enough evidence.
Is it not going to court though?
There's
Didn't you
no
say
date
she's being
set.
charged?
She's sitting in jail. She's just sitting in jail. There are no dates set that I could find anywhere. And
in jail,
to the
chewing
point
on
is,
her wrists.
And you called
12th of
Kerala
April.
jails.
Oh, seriously, I could not get off the phone. They just kept rabbiting on at me. No, I didn't. But there is no evidence. Like what I looked for was court papers. that said
Yeah.
when a date was set, usually this was a huge media story in the area, right? There's lots and lots of articles from 2019. It tapers out in 2021, and the only thing I could find in 2022 was the reference to the fact that for 4 of the cases, there's no forensics on it. And they've gone to a lab in, is it Hyderabad?
Yep.
That they're actually trying to get them to test these samples to see if there are any evidence of poisoning in them. So I think you're right, Clarky, that it all could play out. But at the moment, the other thing I did read, and it was very early on in the whole process, but the HuffPost, India, had an interesting article, again, buried 15 layers down, basically saying that when you speak to the investigating officers and all the rest of it, they've basically all said, oh, it's just a feeling that we had, or it was a suspicion that we had. She's suspicious. She lied about this. She lied about that. Therefore, we think she probably did it.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if I'm putting my serious hat on,
If you're going to be Occam's razor, yeah.
a liar doesn't make a murderer. Someone who pretends she's got a different job doesn't make a murderer. I don't think in a real court of law, from what you've said, she would be found guilty because it sounds like there's no evidence. But there's every chance that she may do, given the hype around it.
Yeah.
That said, and purely outside of the legal system, there is an awful lot of suspicion around someone who is around 8 deaths, is it?
6.
7
Six.
deaths? 6 deaths.
6, but the sister Renji, who I didn't talk about, apparently got very sick at one point, got treatment and recovered, and they suspect that she was a 7th intended victim. But I don't know. If you eat some cyanide, if you eat cyanide, how easy is it for you to recover?
Well, you can, depending on
The
the
dose.
amount you have. It's, yeah.
Did she not admit to these?
Only to the
Murders?
police,
Yeah,
and
but
that's
she's
not...
admitted
to
to
the
the
media. Oh, that's
police.
right. You said that, yeah.
And it's questionable as to whether or not it was coerced.
Yeah, so how severely you're affected by the cyanide poisoning depends on the dose, the type of cyanide, and how long you're exposed.
She's pretty good at, if she knocked all the others off, they all died pretty quickly. But yeah. Anyway, there's only a couple of comments or brief references to Renji possibly being a victim as well. So that's why I didn't really add her to the story.
I think in the interest of not influencing a case, it's probably hard to...
But that's hilarious
Do
because
anything.
if you look up her name, every story about her is basically said she's done it, alleged serial killer. So I'm not sure how much we could influence an outcome. That's all I'm saying. Like the outcome is so influenced already by the uncontrolled, unchecked media coverage.
Yeah, and it's a bit like the Scott Peterson case we spoke about in that regard, that when the media gets out of control,
Yeah.
all the facts get lost.
Absolutely. The only balanced article I read was the one from the HuffPost. Everything else was like, she done it. And so that's, as I went through it, because the first, I swear I think I've heard this story from another podcast, and I thought it was a done deal, like it was this is a tried person doing time kind of thing, unless there's another serial killer who poisoned her whole family, whose name was Jolly. So I was quite surprised by the time I got to the end of it that I realised that she hasn't actually gone through the judicial process. She's still in jail, 3 years on, and yet the way that she has talked about is literally she's done it. She's referred to as like this celebrity killer almost.
She's got a bit of infamy.
Yeah, but not from her. It's created by the press.
No.
Yeah. So in some ways, I think, the press are culpable because if she doesn't get a fair trial, okay, fine. If it turns out that Hyderabad labs say, yep, there's cyanide in all of these people and the highest likelihood is that she did it, I'm not advocating to have a person who murdered people let off. I'm just saying she deserves a fair trial. I mean, they don't appear to have looked for anyone else either. She was there the whole time. There's no other indication of anyone else that could be involved in this. Maybe there is no one else involved in it. Maybe it is cut and dried. I just wish there was enough hard evidence or scientific evidence for me to go, yeah, okay, I feel comfortable with that. That's all. I'm quite happy to sentence them all for having names that I can't pronounce. No, I'm just kidding. For, being Thomas's. What's with the Rob Thomas's cousins?
It's 3 a.m. I'm feeling low.
Maybe we should sentence them all to a perpetual Matchbox 20 concert.
Oh, that's not a
I'd be there.
sentence.
Oh, after a couple of times it would be, I reckon.
Nah, not when his button pops on his leather pants.
Yeah, in
That was
Perth.
all right.
What? No.
Oh, we went and saw him on our last
went and
night
saw
in
him?
Perth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a couple of times.
And his
couple of
buttons
times,
We
pop.
like
Oh, goodness
Matchbox
me.
20.
Still?
I think
he's a big hunk of spunk.
Is he the one who did that Santana one? Where
yes,
it's like,
I love that one.
Yeah.
Smooth,
Was it well-
smooth. I love that
smooth,
song. Yeah.
That's it.
So, yes, we don't want to prejudice any case. So, we don't actually have to sentence. But I did think it was A, funny, and B, weird, and C, it's just interesting. And as I said, I thought we had got to a kind of, we would get to an inevitable conclusion. And then I ended it going, I'm not sure. But the two of you seem quite clear and quite comfortable thinking that Occam's razor, the most obvious answer usually is.
I can't believe so many people died of cardiac arrest / cyanide poisoning. And,
Yeah, I think it's unlikely, and it's not like they, like certain families, may have suffer certain diseases and whatever else. But it doesn't seem like that was particularly the case. As you say, I don't want to say anything, given that it's about to go to court.
We don't have to sentence her. The courts haven't sentenced her. We can come back to this at another time if she's ever found guilty and go the
Get
heck.
some more.
Or say, sorry about that episode. Turns out you were innocent. I think I've done a good enough job of trying to say that it could go either way.
I think you have, and I think that's fine, and I think I'm comfortable with that. I think that something's not quite right, but as you say, without the evidence, who are we to say one way or the other? And if it's going to go to trial, then I guess we just wait and see. But
Wait
it
and
certainly
see.
presented a very entertaining
Still was an
tale
interesting
of-
story, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a little bit crazy.
It's
It just was like, what? What?
What? Who?
How many? What?
What?
Why?
Yeah.
What? Hang on. Yeah. So that is the story of Jolly Joseph. And
Nice one.
I thought it was funny. So thank you very much for listening. We basically haven't sentenced that for anyone who was hanging out for that to happen. We'll wait until the Indian courts in Kerala bring Mrs. Joseph or whatever her name is.
Call Schmidty and tell him what the result is.
I'll follow it.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to it. And that may take some time, I'm guessing. But anyway, we'll see how we
Yes.
go. So, as every week, miss you already.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.